Welcome to the Art Lady's home. Today I have a special treat. This is a vegetable pot pie, and oh, is it good. I know it's not going to last long. I can't wait for my son to try it. I've been telling him, come on, it's ready, it's ready. But we just finished cooking it, and I needed to heat up the oven today. It was so cold. So I roasted up some vegetables. I left them kind of like old world farm style, big and chunky, so you can see and taste everything in it. And then I put a really delicious Chardonnay based cream sauce on top. And then I baked the puff pastry till golden brown, and it is definitely a treat. And I will be having another piece very soon. That's how good it is. Like I said, I don't think it's going to last tonight. Not in this house. Not in this house. This will be gone probably by morning. This is definitely a keeper. So stick around. I'll show you step by step how to make it. So quick and easy, simple. Basically just roasting your vegetables, mixing up your roux sauce, and popping on your puff pastry. And I used store-bought puff pastry, which you'll see in the recipe. So I hope you enjoy it. Let me know how yours came out. Into the roasting pan, what I did was I put a tablespoon of olive oil, and then I put a few tablespoons of water to start. And now I'm going to be going ahead and placing my vegetables. I went ahead and chopped up pretty big sized chunks of celery here. And I used half a package of celery. So I'm going to throw that in first. Next, what I did was I sliced up 2 pounds of carrots, and I left them about between a 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch thick. And then the ones that were really big, like look at this one. These were huge carrots. I did dice in half, so it's a good fork bite full of carrot. I didn't want it to be too big. So I diced those up, and now I'm going to go ahead and just add that to the mix. Making sure I've got it all right there. Now I'm going to dice up 3 shallots right here. And then I've got 2 onions to dice up. This will give some nice juicy flavor to the vegetables. Here's the shallots and the onions. I left them as well in big chunks. Basically a fork or spoonful size. Right here. And then I'm going to disperse those. Into the pot, I just added 5 medium-sized red potatoes, and you can see I lightly peeled them. I just peeled off any, disfiguring spots and then left the rest of the skin on. And I diced them up into chunks, almost thumb size here, the first knuckle of your thumb. It's about 1.5 inches. This is almost 3/4 of an inch here. So 1.5 inch chunks. That way they don't dissolve up into nothing while I'm cooking them. And all the vegetables seem to be almost about the same size here, nice and chunky. So this is going to be a chunky, beautiful vegetable pot pie where the vegetables show through. I don't want them to just fall apart. Now I'm going to add some seasoning. I'm going to add about 1.5 teaspoons of salt. And I'm just going to sprinkle that over everything. I'm going to add some rosemary. Sprinkle that. About 1 teaspoon of dried rosemary. And then I'm going to just sprinkle the top with celery salt, just to coat everything lightly. You can see how I have it just sparingly on all the vegetables. This is just this gives great flavor, the celery salt. And then I'm going to do the same for thyme. Just lightly sprinkle. This is ground thyme. Right here. Lightly sprinkle the vegetables. And then I'm going to add some cracked black pepper. about a teaspoon of that right here. I've just finished making a vegetable broth, and what I did was I took 3 cups of warm water, and then I used a little under a teaspoon of this Better Than Bouillon vegetable base. If you have regular vegetable broth, you can use that as well. And what I did was I put some of it at the bottom of my pan so that I can roast my vegetables. Just enough to cover the bottom here, about a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch. That way the steam can help roast my vegetables. I don't want to put a lot in my pan because I want these to be oven browned, and I will be stirring them frequently as it's cooking so that the juice can coat all the vegetables and the vegetables can rotate and brown up on all sides. So my first step now is to get this into the oven. I am going to sprinkle some parsley on top too. I'm going to use a couple teaspoons of parsley right on the top here. And then I'm going to just toss everything to coat it all. And then, like I said, I'm going to frequently toss this and coat everything as it's cooking, so it's even cooking. I am setting my oven. I have a 400-degree oven set, and I am putting it on a convection bake, which I really love. If you don't have a convection oven, this helps speed up the process, and I also think it browns my food so much better since I've had that convection oven. But if you don't have one, you're just going to cook it a little bit longer, that's all. And so I'm going to leave it for about 20 minutes, and then I'm going to toss this again, pull it out of the oven, toss it, and then stick it back in. Now that my vegetables are roasting a little bit, I chopped up 6 cloves of garlic, and I crushed them. I just kind of smashed the clove with the side of my knife like this, and then did a few dicings. I'm going to also toss in this garlic now to the roasting pan to give a nice little garlic flavor to it. They've been baking for about an hour. In the meantime, I have been every 15-20 minutes tossing them to coat the juices. Now what I've done is I've removed the excess liquid, and I put about 2 tablespoons of olive oil over the top and just stirred the vegetables. Most of them are cooked. The carrots are a little bit crunchy. I'm going to cook them a little bit longer. I did remove the juice so that I can start on my vegetable gravy that's going to go on top of this. So I'm going to just put in about a 1/4 cup of juice at the bottom, just barely covering my bottom from the reserve here, from my original. That way they don't stick, but yet they're able to brown up a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and continue roasting them until my carrots are tender. Well, I'm making my roux, and I'm going to go ahead and show you what I did. I used 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, and then I used 2 tablespoons of Earth Balance. And once that was all melted, I went ahead and added a 1/2 cup of flour and stirred it in the pan until it became nice and thick. It actually left lines when I drew them in the pan, so that's how you can tell when it's ready. Nice and thick paste. And then slowly to that, I added my pan drippings from my vegetables, which was 2 cups approximately of vegetable juice from the pan. I used I think it was about a cup I ended up draining out of my pan, and then I had a cup left from my reserve. So I used that, and then I put in 2 cups of Almond Breeze milk. So all of that went in my pot, along with 1/2 teaspoon of thyme, 1 teaspoon of pepper, and a teaspoon of salt. Now what I'm doing is I'm just finishing off the gravy, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Now I'm going to be incorporating almost a cup of Chardonnay. So I'm going to start off putting in a little bit at a time. Now that my gravy is really thick. Oh wow, it's It's starting to smoke up here. So my gravy started turning real thick, so now I'm going to slowly incorporate the Chardonnay into the gravy. And as soon as you put it in, you can really smell an amazing aroma. I love white wine in gravy. And red in spaghetti sauce. And so I'm going to incorporate that into it. And that's only almost about a cup of Chardonnay. You don't want your gravy to be thin. Do it small. Mine was real nice and thick. I've just placed all my vegetables in my baking dish, and actually they all fit nicely in this one dish. Meanwhile, I cooked the gravy for probably about seven minutes, and it's starting to cool a little bit here. But you know when the gravy's done, if you leave a little spoon mark, it leaves like a little bit of a channel. See how that's doing? It's nice and thick. And also it's leaving some residue on the spoon when I put it in and stir. You can see how nice and thick that is there. So that's done. You don't want to have runny gravy in this. And now I'm just going to spoon enough gravy over this. And then I'll get my puff pastry ready. And for the puff pastry, I'm using these pre-made puff pastry sheets. And they're already in a rolled rectangle, so that's even easier for me. And so I'll just carefully place them on the top of this crust. Now, I did thaw them. I thawed them in the microwave, just in a... Today's one of the coldest days of the year, so I didn't want to thaw them out on the counter. So what I did was I just put them in a microwave oven on a paper plate, and I thawed them that way, probably for about an hour and a half while I was making up all this stuff. So they were just in the oven. I didn't turn it on or anything, just so that they don't get the draft of the house, because I wanted them to puff up and thaw out nicely so I can bend them and move them. And my microwave oven happens to be right above my regular oven, so the heat of that I let in the oven a couple times, let in the microwave. So I'm just adding enough of this to coat the vegetables. I'll give it a light stir. I don't want to have them swimming in this gravy. I'm just going to do a light stir, and I think that's good. So I'm not using all my gravy up. I'm going to serve that on the side if you want to add it to the top of it. There. But I just wanted to make sure that they are all covered and it got down to the bottom. You can see how thick that gravy is. That's a nice gravy. Now I'm going to go ahead. I do have probably half a pan left. And I'll just put this into a gravy dish, and when we eat dinner, we can serve a little bit of gravy over our piece of this puff pastry pie. So I'm going to go ahead and get my puff pastry out. I'm doing my puff pastry now. I'm going to just very lightly flour this surface here. And then what I'm going to do, I just need a little rolling to fit the size of that pan. And this is just perfectly thawed right here. And so I just need to roll it out a little bit longer, just a few more inches. And I'm going to lightly flour my rolling pin here. My rolling pin's just quite long, so I'm just going to flour one end of it here. And I'm going to go ahead, let me slide this over a little. Let me turn it this way and roll it. I'm going to roll it vertically, because that's, let's see, or horizontally actually. Let's see, because I want it to come down this way slightly, and then have it come in a little bit more this way, right there. And then I'm going to measure my pan. Yep, that's big enough. Okay, and I'm going to cut it. It's a little bit wider, so I am going to cut it before I put it in my pan. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's on top. Yeah, I'm just going to slice down the sides with a pizza cutter. And then my corners of my dish are rounded, so I'm just going to round them with the pizza cutter. And now I'm going to go ahead and just carefully lift up and slide it onto my pan here, just like this. And that is actually perfect. It's a perfect fit. Look at that. Right there. Now, the leftovers, if you want to make something fancy, you can. Let's do this. Some triangles. I should have 4 triangles. I'm going to add some more to make it look like a flower or a poinsettia or a pinwheel. And you can brush the top with some, just for fun, some butter. This will just puff up. And I'm going to make this triangle. This one's a little funky, so I'll switch it. And even a little vine. If you roll it, let's see. If you roll it, you can get a little vine or a leaf. Actually, I'm just going to slice a skinny one for a little swirl. And do the same on the other side with the pizza cutter. Just like that. Give a little swirl, just for some fun. And you can brush it with some butter and put it in the oven. I've let it cool while I clean the kitchen, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it and have a piece. So I'm hoping that the pastry's cooked perfect. Smells really great as I'm cutting it, man. Ooh, yeah. And I'm just gonna scoop it out. Ooh. Come on. There. There is that delicious. Let me slide it to the side and take a bite. It's not too hot. Let's see here. Let's check to make sure that that pastry's cooked nice. You definitely want it to be nice and flaky and fluffy. I don't want any dough. Let's try it. The celery tastes delicious. Yeah, see, it's nice. What I love about it, it's got nice, big, chunky vegetables. So you can see what you're eating. It's not all cooked up to nothing and soggy. It actually tastes like there's chicken in here. Let me pull it back so you can see. Wow, that's delicious. It smells so good. You can see the steam coming up. Like I said, today's one of the coldest days here in Florida. And this is a great cold day. I was able to have my oven on. Otherwise, I would have just kind of cooked them in a stovetop. But the roasted vegetables, I just like them. I think they taste a lot better roasted than on a stovetop. And a good excuse to have the oven on all day. Now that is delicious comfort food right there. And nice cozy. I'm going to put on my fireplace and sit in front of it and have some of this.